June Alma of the June Alma Show, and tonight. Hi, this is June Alma of the June Alma Show. Hi, this is June Alma of the June Alma Show. This is June Alma and welcome to the relaunch of a new season. June Alma TV. Channel 1. We're not politicians.
All right, 5, 4.
Hi, we're back. This is June Alma of the June Alma Talk Show, and tonight we have a very special, prominent guest architect, June Palafox. So we continue with our topic on, the vision for the Philippines 500 years hence, and he was talking about, how the Philippines could become one of the top countries of the world in the top 20, could be a first world country if our leaders had the vision and the political will. But going also back into because we were talking earlier about the buildings and how the different mega cities can be replanned so that our beautiful country can be up to par, and correct the uglification of the city and the country. With regards, sir, to the houses, because right now we are, in the midst of this catastrophic climate crisis, and with all these typhoons and all the global warmings and all the floodings, what do you propose, sir, for our houses to be adaptive to all these catastrophes in the climate and the environment?
Yeah, for one, we have been using obsolete examples of urban planning. Like our model had been the post-war automobile-oriented Los Angeles and Hollywood, whereas our Asian neighbors, they went vertical urbanism rather than urban sprawl. Like, what do we have here? Let's say in Makati, you have a concentration of jobs and economic activity, and yet surrounded by low-density gated communities. And planning is balanced. It balances the jobs and housing. But since the average employee, even executives of Makati, are priced out of the housing stock in Makati, so they had to waste at least 1,000 to 3,000 hours a year in traffic. So we should go vertical urbanism instead of urban sprawl. And good news, we were told there's already a master plan for flooding and drainage for Metro Manila. Bad news, it will be completed in 2035. Meantime, what do? Every year we get this flooding. So we came out with a proposal, which we did the urban planning for San Juan. First, the hazard mapping, overlay it over the land use and zoning of the city. So areas that are liable to flooding, we should determine the 100-year worst flooding. So let's say if the 100 years worst flooding is 3 liters, maybe elevate your house or float your house, or be ready that your ground floor will be flooded. Just modify your electrical system. And then for new buildings, maybe just elevate them, no habitable rooms on the ground floor. And then for San Juan, for instance, our proposal is 3 levels of access. The street level, sidewalk level access, then interconnected elevated walkways, so that even if it's flooded, you can still go to work, go to school. And a 3rd level monorail, interconnected with the MRT EDSA and LRT Aurora Boulevard, Quezon City. So even if there's flooding, people can still go to work, and so on. And in fact, for our urban planning for San Juan, we got recognition from Berlin, Germany, New York, and Shanghai. I presented our plan for San Juan. It was cited as a smart city of the future if they follow the Palafox plan for San Juan. And it's an irony because we don't even have one smart city in this country, and we were recognized proposing a smart city. The planning we did for San Juan, I was even sharing it and lecturing the Germans and the Europeans on the smart city. So it was in New York and Shanghai. So I hope the leaders and city center of San Juan will follow our proposals. I talk about adaptive architecture and adaptive engineering. So since government that will not provide the necessary infrastructure to address flooding and earthquake, there are 18 kinds of hazards. So I have in fact even recommended to the Office of the President 145 recommendations to address the hazards before they become disasters. Because addressing the hazard before the disaster is 90% cheaper than rehabilitation, aside from saving human lives and billions worth of properties. Through proper urban planning, architecture, engineering, we can address the hazard. And there are 18 kinds of hazards or disasters, 10 man-made and 8 natural disasters like earthquakes, flooding, and so on. Man-made terrorism, oil spills, fire, and so on. And I wish government has more political will. Like 2004, JICA, the Japanese experts already advised our government, that's 12 years ago, that if we have a earthquake 7.2 magnitude, 50,000 people will get killed. That's population 2004, 30,000 from the earthquake, and 20,000 from the fire that will happen during or right after the earthquake. 7 bridges will collapse. And I wish government would pinpoint which are the 7 bridges. And I know they only retrofit the Ayala Bridge. And thanks to the visit of Pope Francis, they retrofitted structurally the Quirino Grandstand. And I always say also, sometimes say also, corruption kills. Because let's say government buildings, infrastructure, bridges, let's say a corrupt politician asks for 26% kickback. Where did the contractor reduce the 26%? Is it from the concrete, the steel bars? So I am encouraging, admonishing my colleagues in the profession, like architects, engineers, project managers, contractors, if they know that the infrastructure and buildings were not properly built, I think they should be honest, patriotic enough to become whistleblowers. So we fix the bridge, the infrastructure, the buildings before disaster happens. And I've been recommending that maybe there should be a structural audit of most buildings, especially government buildings and infrastructure. If you suspect there was corruption, and usually during disasters, we use government buildings and infrastructure. And if the bridges and government buildings are vulnerable to the first to collapse during earthquake, where else do we go? And I've been talking about, for a long time, identifying evacuation areas. And just like where we are in this part of Makati Central Business District, very few open spaces. And I told my people here, my colleagues or employees, that in case of a big earthquake, I think the safest place for evacuation is the South Cemetery. Because the part across us, I've been computing, if all the residents and employees around the park go there, we don't fit. And you are supposed to run away 1.5 times the height of the building. Because even if the building doesn't fall down, the debris, the glass, and so on. And I think government should make a massive information campaign. And I'm told also by earthquake engineers, the type of concrete we use in this country is good only for 70 years. So if the building is more than 70 years, it's like you have to do architectural structural audit already and reinforce it. And when the building went through several earthquakes already, there's such a thing as building fatigue. Just like the paper clip, you bend it once, it will not break. You bend it several times, it's gonna break. And so are the steel bars in our buildings and houses. And so many things that it's not original from me, being practiced elsewhere in the world. Like Tokyo has one of the most number of tall buildings all over the world, but they do not build above the fault line. It's only in our country that building permits were issued building on top of the fault line. You can build 5 meters away from the fault line but never on top of it. I master plan a community with the fault line. I went to Philbox and asked them to redline where the fault line is located. And I made it as a linear park, non-buildable, non-sellable. So I wish there are more responsible developers and more professional architects and urban planners and engineers who should tell the client that this is not right, this is the way to do it. And in fact, we are very, very good professionals, earthquake engineers with Philbox. Unfortunately, they're all paying back their scholarship and they might just be pirated by other countries, giving them more compensation. We should take care of our scientists working in government.
Okay, so what about, sir, the because now there is a trend for the the green buildings and the avoidance for the use of, for instance, air conditioners, because I think they're one of the main reasons behind the coal utilization that all the countries have, gathered together and tried to control the use of coal emissions. And so, with regards to the greening of the building, what exactly can you recommend, or what exactly does it mean when we come up with green buildings?
Green and Sustain. I'm a member, or our firm are some members of the U.S. Green Building Council, and I'm a member of the American Institute of Architects, and I'm one of the very few in the world that signed up that by 2030, we call it 2030 Challenge, the buildings we design and the communities we plan should be carbon neutral by then. And one reason why people were surprised when I gave up $1 million in architect's fee, because our clients in Subic, they wanted us to destroy 366 70-year-old trees. And I returned the $1 million contract because I wanted to save the trees. So for me, a 50-year-old tree, the replacement value is 9 million pesos. For the oxygen it gave the first 50 years, the water it harvested, the fertilizer gave planet Earth, the beauty it gave the environment, and the cooling effect. But in Manila Polo Club, I got approved 2 million pesos more just to preserve the 250-year-old trees. So they're also responsible citizens. And for the buildings, we look at the orientation of the building. So the length of the building should not face the afternoon sun or morning sun, but north and south. And as much practicable, natural light and ventilation, just like my room. That air conditioning and artificial lighting should just be an option, not the only means of ventilating and natural lighting. And some projects we did, like the Rizal Tower of Rockwell, and the architect of record there, double glazing to reduce the transference of hot, insulate the heat entering the rooms. And elsewhere in the world, they already forbid window air conditioning units because it's the worst polluter. You may cool your room, but outside you pollute the rest. And it's all like what we have here is state-of-the-art clean air, and we got it from a state-of-the-art Japanese technology. And we're able to reduce our consumption by 50%, even the right kind of air conditioning. Yeah, and we were very glad that it was a state of the art that were introduced to our company, and we found out that our electrical consumption is now 50% cheaper, and it's even clean air. And then of course rainwater harvesting. It should be many building codes elsewhere in the world, they require rainwater harvesting, like in New York, in Singapore, in Amsterdam, and so on. And then coal energy is the worst energy. I think our policymakers, government leaders should think long term. But I think our meat-eating society is also with carbon footprints because of our meat-eating society. And in the American Planning Association, of which I'm a very active member, in 1998 we determined that it was concluded that when you have a large villa, a large single-family home, in the middle of the city, you have a larger carbon footprint, environmental footprint, because you're arrogating to yourself prime urban land resources. You're preventing more families to live closer to their places of work. You are encouraging more urban sprawl to encroach into the forests, into the farms. Let's say when we master plan Rockwell, we made it as a walkable community, mixed use, place to live, work, shop, and dine, learn, and worship in a walkable community. And if you live there, everything is within 5-minute walk or 400 meters. And a survey was done when we were designing Rockwell that we Metro Manilans, we walk only 400 meters. Beyond that, we take stop anywhere, tricycle, jeepney, bus, chauffeur-driven cars. And I hope the model we did for Rockwell will be a model not just for first-class communities, but even the business class, economy class, or social informal settlers, the informal sectors of our society. Make it place to live, workshop, and dine within walkable distances. And let's say the first 5 towers of Rockwell that we designed, Rizal Tower, Luna, Hidalgo, Amorsolo East, and Amorsolo West, 200 families per hectare. Compare it, let's say, to Forest Park, only 4 families per hectare. Which is more sustainable, 200 families per hectare or only 4 families per hectare? So in the American Planning Association, they're encouraging cities to do urban renewal. Those large single-family homes, mansions in the middle of the city, they should be converted into multi-family homes. Then if you want to have your large single-family villa, you go to the suburbs. And our leaders of industry and government should be the exemplars, not the exempted. Like the Lee Kuan Yews of this world, the Bloombergs, the Kennedys, the Clintons, the Rockefellers, when they are in the Lee Kuan Yews of Singapore, when they are in the CBD, they live in an apartment. Their big houses are in the suburbs. So we have to really re-educate our leaders. And after the oil crisis of 1973, OPEC oil crisis, the gated communities all over the world, they opened up to share their road to everybody else. And including Beverly Hills, Hollywood, around Los Angeles, which is the inspiration of our gated communities in Makati, in Green Hills, in Alabang, they opened up and share the private roads to everybody. Of course, the concern for security and privacy, it's addressed by CCTV cameras and improved security. And if government can only assure the villagers that they will be safe, maybe by giving CCTV cameras, helping the security and privacy of the place, maybe allowing the villages to charge higher for non-residents, like a kind of a road user charges, toll fee. Like you fly over EDSA during peak hours. EDSA is so congested. The roads inside the gated military camps and gated communities, parallel to EDSA, there are no traffic, hardly any traffic. So that's another no-brainer recommendation. Maybe governments should persuade the villages to open up during peak hours, even if the ones passing through pay higher, like a toll fee, like a congestion charging. So the villages can buy more CCTV cameras, more security. Maybe government should repave the roads and so on. And I've done that elsewhere in the world. I've recommended it. And we have so many obsolete practices here. Like we design a very well paved road, then we put humps. Since OPEC oil crisis of 1973, the more progressive cities in the world, they don't allow humps because humps are discriminatory. They're addressed to motorists incapable of following rules, and it is more, you create more pollution. Every time you slow down and pick up speed, you emit more pollution from your car. That's addressed for emergency vehicles. Let's say you have a heart attack, you slow down the ambulance. Elsewhere in the world, you can sue whoever put that hump. Or a fire truck cannot reach your house because of the humps on time. or a police car cannot catch up with the carnappers or kidnappers because of the humps. And research shows that humps are not really that effective, or it can result to broken axles to speed up, because the motorists try to speed up in between humps. So the motorists tend to overspeed in between humps. So the best solution is speed radars and CCTV cameras. Still, the rich neighborhoods, they love humps. The poor neighborhoods, they love potholes. And I don't know, every time I speak like this, people call me controversial and so on. It's being done elsewhere in the world.
Okay, so thank you. We have a lot of learnings, and I'm sure the authorities would love to listen to you this time, architect. So you were saying that this time perhaps that we're close by. The elections are nearing, both here and the United States, and it's very important for our citizenry, the voting public, to choose wisely, to determine who the leaders who will have the political will and the proper wisdom to be able to discern what is really good for the country and good for the world and beautiful for humanity. So with that, would you like to share again some parting words with our televiewers on the importance of choosing wisely, and because elections are nearing?
Yeah, I think the next 6 years, 2016 to 2022, if I may get inspiration from Pope Paul II, it's courageous transformation. And those 6 years may be our last chance to reform our country. And as I said earlier, the ingredients of success in leadership is strong political will, visionary leadership, good planning like urban planning, good design, and good governance or management. And leaders must not be intellectually challenged, must not be integrity challenged. And maybe my generation of baby boomers, we may have failed to convince leaders to be more patriotic, God-fearing, and really concerned for public good, public safety, and public health, not just lining their pockets. And I hope the millennial generation and Generation X, our future leaders, please, let's vote wisely. The next 6 years very critical, and as I said, 2021 will be 500 years old already. United Arab Emirates, which is a game changer for me, having worked in Dubai, will only be 50 years old in 2021. When I left in Dubai in 1977, Metro Manila was probably 200 years ahead of Dubai. Today, if you go to Dubai, probably Dubai is 200 years ahead of Metro Manila, even if you just compare our airport to airport, leaders to leaders. And by 2050, we'll be 150 million more Filipinos. And if we don't create around 200 new cities, all our existing cities will be as bad or even worse than Metro Manila today. So we need vision, political will, good planning, good design, and good governance. And thank you for this opportunity to share. And this century is Asia-Pacific century. Many years ago, the center of trade and commerce was the Mediterranean. The last century was the Atlantic. This century is the Pacific. If you rotate the map of the world, the Philippines is right in the center. And I say, it's no wonder Ferdinand Magellan, without a nautical map, he arrived in the Philippines. For 300 plus years, we were the Asia-Pacific hub of Spanish Europe and Mexico. For more than 50 years, the Americans were the Asia-Pacific hub. Then the Japanese for 4 years, 2 years per the British. We have such a strategic location, and we're so blessed as a nation. and we really have maximizing the blessings we have. I think we can address corruption, criminality, climate change, poverty, pollution, too much politics, issues with the police, housing and healthcare, and infrastructure and incompetence. There's so many bright Filipinos, and if there just 10% of patriotic Filipinos, I think we can overcome the 1% corrupt. Do not be afraid. Love our country. And there's so much wealth of our nation that should be more equitably distributed. And our country is so rich. How come 28 million Filipinos are so poor? There's enough wealth in this country to distribute. And with that parting words, God bless the Philippines.
Thank you, Architect Palafox. And with that, we'd like to, end our show and invite everyone for another hour next week of enlightening interviews. And before we end, we'd like to, according to Architect Palafox, choose wisely and only vote for those who are smart and good and who are able to lift our country, the Philippines, and the world. So good night, everyone, and see you all next week. Take care.